Welcome back to Animation Fascination. I'm Mark, and with me again is Stanford Clark.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, sir. How are you?
Hey, doing great.
So this episode today is what we call a crossover, where it's going to be with the Holo Maneuver. So you already have half the Holo Maneuver right here.
That's right.
And here's
The other half is eating right here.
The other half. So this episode is episode, what is it? 105, of Animation Fascination. This is going to be about the Star Wars Visions Volume 2, which was released on May the 4th earlier this month. This is as can be seen in the volume, it's the second volume of Visions. This one covered, whereas Volume 1 was purely anime and was just animation from Japan, this second volume was a little bit more global, where it was like India, South Africa, we had Ireland, England in there as well, Spain, Chile, South Korea, France, Japan did do another one for this one too, and I believe that was it. So South Africa, Japan, India, France, South Korea, UK, Chile, Ireland, and Spain. So there's 9 total episodes for this one overall. But before we get into talking about that, we do have just a few things this week that we're going to touch on quickly before we talked about Star Wars Visions Volume 2. It's not going to be as long as like a normal Animation Fascination episode. We do have just like one news article that I kind of wanted just to get like everyone's kind of general ideas of. And it was actually, I believe it was within the past few days or so, is that, which like Stanford and I talked like a few months ago when Zaslav over at Warner Brothers decided to start taking a bunch of different TV series and films off of HBO Max. Well, formerly known as HBO Max at that point, now just Max. I remember us kind of talking about it being a worrying, hopeful not trend to it, which right now with the writer strike going on too, this is also like one of the things that all the writers are kind of like fighting for, with like residual pay with stuff like this. So, and that's seemingly why, like, at least now both with HBO Max and then now Disney Plus, a lot of this stuff has been taken off to effectively not have to pay like the residuals or like the licensing for these different TV series. And like some of it's crazy too, like, and specifically with the Disney Plus stuff, it's all of like everything that was removed was Disney Plus original content
from when they launched in 2019. Yeah,
like outside of like Marvel or Star Wars content stuff. So
right, like, but movies and and series, right?
Like Bryan Cranston posted about like the one and only Ivan film that he was in that was supposed to go to theaters, but because of the pandemic was released on Disney Plus. That's now just kind of erased from existence.
Yeah,
like you can't even buy it on iTunes or anywhere else digitally. TV, like the Willow TV series that was only added on there 6 months ago.
Yeah, they pulled it.
Was already taken off. The making of that was also taken off. Like Mighty Ducks Game Changers was taken off there too. So that's going to make you and I talking about Mighty Ducks eventually on movies past and present a little bit more difficult, Stanford.
Right. Since we won't be able to talk about the series.
I mean, we can. We just won't be able to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Remember everything.
There's a way.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we're not going to tell anybody but people know. That's what's going to lead it to, is like a lot of people having to find other ways to watch this stuff. Like I hadn't been able to finish Willow yet. I had 2 episodes left, so I don't know what I do now. And I don't know, it just bums me out, and it at least for me restates the importance of physical media, because at least with physical media, like if they had released like say like season 1 or 2 of Game Changers on like DVD, even even if it was just DVD, like the bare minimum standard definition thing, there would still be like a way that you could go and maybe even go get it from like your library and bring it home and watch it. But there's like not even a way to do that. So, but like
Might
with
be going back to that. You never know.
Yeah.
Because people are getting fed up with everything the streaming platforms are doing.
Yeah, it just bums me out. Like again too, like when you buy stuff digitally, you're more long-term leasing it because they can always just
get
removed.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And I know like some stuff people kind of like fans kind of like bullied the studio into keeping on there at like what was it? It was the Howard
Ashman documentary.
Yeah, Howard Ashman documentary. They got them to keep that on there. But I don't know. I'm hoping I don't know. I just hope that they put the stuff back on there too, because and like another one of the shows was Prop Culture. Like I don't know if either of you watched it, but
I loved Prop Culture, and I was wishing that there would be more episodes, but clearly there weren't, and now it's been pulled. For the time being.
So,
how permanent do you think this is? I mean, truly, do we think that we're never going to see these shows ever again, or is Disney going to figure out some way to, if people wanted to buy a physical media version of it, or could they rotate it, into the in and out of the service every once in a while? What's your take on that?
Does the term Disney Vault mean anything?
Well, exactly. No, I'm with you, Mike. I mean,
I
remember that distinctly as a kid. I mean, we didn't have access to everything all the time. I mean, if you'd buy it on VHS or whatnot, but then they'd pull those off the shelves, right? And it'd be gone for a few years, and then they'd bring it back, maybe in a different format.
At least if you grabbed it within that window of time that you had to go and grab it to bring it home, you had it while it was in the vault before it came back. So
what you'll see is premium level memberships become a thing, where you get everything, no matter what, but you have to pay like gobs more money per month than because you'll have the commercial base one where it's not ad free for the cheapest. Then you'll have a tier above that, and then they'll have like the platinum level where it's like you get everything. Even if we take it down from the other ones. Hulu's been kind of doing that for years.
Which Hulu is actually part of this too, because Disney owns like 2/3 of Disney. So
like
a lot of stuff was also taken off of Hulu as well. And it was all Hulu originals for that too. So it was like Future Man, a bunch of other like Hulu original stuff too. I'm surprised like Solar Opposites didn't get taken off of there. But I don't know.
I wish they would release more of a reason why, because cost-cutting maneuvers really is just a cop-out.
I think I agree. The lack of communication with subscribers, I think, has been lousy. And maybe they've let some media outlets know, or some, bloggers, whatever, that how we were getting this news, right? But that's been unfortunate. Another black eye for Disney. And then also, it's just everybody's ticked. I mean, you can't go on Twitter without people being pissed about this, and who can blame them? But
although to be fair, people on Twitter are always pissed about one thing or everything.
That's the thing. I mean, it's Twitter, right? It's just that's the nature of it. But still, I'm hoping that they're going to put out some kind of a solution or something that will work for people. I mean, I don't want you to be a jerk either, because I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about this. I mostly don't feel good about it, but because here you are, Mark. You're like Willow. Willow hasn't been out for very long, and it got pulled, and that's a shame. Yeah. But what about like one of those Disney Plus, like Stargirl or something, like one of those Disney Plus original movies? When was the last time anybody watched it? And I don't know.
Or all those crappy Disney Junior cartoons.
Yes.
Nobody watches.
When was the last time anybody watched those? But still, it's a tough one. Unfortunate.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, Sylvie had that to say about it.
Sylvie's not happy either.
She was like, "They better not take Loki off of there."
Yeah, like, don't remove Loki. You don't.
Yeah,
No,
because
that's season 2. Isn't that coming out soon?
Yeah, later this year. Like there was a interview that I remember Bob Iger had done like a month or maybe 2 months or so ago, where he was like talking about like maybe like reincorporating physical media. So maybe if that's what if they're taking if the stuff they're taking off of there right now is like this is like their new way that they do, maybe they have like a Disney streaming vault where they take it off of streaming and they put it on physical media, and then when they put it in physical media vault, it then goes back into streaming. So that way it's always technically not like vaulted, but it is always available in one medium or not medium, but one format or the other.
Yeah.
But
they're probably working on whatever's after Blu-ray, and they're going to release it all on that.
Ultra 4K.
Yeah.
Ultra 8K.
Ultra 8K.
16K.
That's right.
32K. 64K.
Implanted in your head.
Yeah, you get a little contact that you put in there, and you just watch it
Google
while you're walking. Yeah. Ahead of its time.
Exactly. I just don't. I mean, what is the solution? What do the fans want? I mean, if they made a way to buy, a disc.
Amazon does it. Like Amazon, you can buy your digital content, and it never comes down. Really, I've had stuff on there for like 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know. And like even with like Netflix, some of their shows get released physically, like Umbrella Academy still gets released on Blu-ray. Like Orange is the New Black, I remember would get released on DVD. So there is, and like Daredevil, when that was on Netflix, that and some of the other shows from there would get released on Blu-ray. So there is a precedent for the streaming services to release their content physically. So I don't know, hopefully maybe eventually we'll get all like the MCU series physically, and like Mando and Andor and all of that physically as well too. So I guess we shall see. Speaking of that, there was a few. Speaking of Warner Brothers and Disney, there was like a few trailers that they released recently. Now, did you guys get to watch any of these trailers that have come out recently at all? There's a trailer for Secrets of the Mogwai. There's a Tiny Toons Luniversity one, and then there was also Disney's Wish. They released a teaser trailer for. Now with the Secrets of the Mogwai one, they've kept showing the kind of like little snippets and whatnot of this, and what I found is interesting, at least about like the new trailer for it, went more into like the Gizmo is essentially from another dimension, and in that new series, it's like the shopkeeper we met in the first movie. It's him as like a little kid and his like adventures with Gizmo, and I've seen people comment on like Gizmo's name even being Gizmo in that, because it was supposed to be that in the first Gremlins movie that the dad gave that name to Gizmo because he made gizmos, so that's why he named Gizmo.
They're just keeping it for
so they're just like kind of retconning his name
by the same people who made Red, Pixar Red. Oh, what was the name of that?
Oh, Turning Red?
Turning Red?
Yeah, Turning Red. Because the animation looks, maybe not them. Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Like a similar kind of influence and style.
Yeah.
That I'm not sure. I know like with Joe Dante, who directed Gremlins, is the director of the series, so that'll be cool. And then Matthew Rhys is doing a voice in it. Ming-Na Wen is the voice. James Hong, BD Wong, and then Sandra Oh is also doing a voice. Randall Park, George Takei. And the other thing that I thought was interesting is that Zach Galligan is doing a voice, who played Billy in like the original Gremlins movie and Gremlins 2. So that's making me like wonder, is he playing Billy again? And then like, what's the framing for this show going to be if he is in it again as Billy? Which I thought could be like a somehow whatever they do with that to see. I thought that might be like interesting. But this is on HBO Max now finally, or sorry, Max. It's on Max now finally too. So like you can go and watch the series. I'll probably talk about it here in a few weeks.
Yeah,
because
I haven't watched it yet. Mark, you know, are they doing a binge? You know, watching approach? Or are they releasing an episode a week? Or I don't know. I haven't been out there to see it. I've seen the trailer, but
yeah, it looks like at least the first two are out. So never get them wet and never feed them after midnight.
That's right.
Or the first two.
Remember that. Now this Looney Tunes one though, that's new to me too, dude. I have not. Sorry, I haven't seen that trailer either. I've seen the one for Wish, but I haven't seen the one for.
I know that people again were getting upset like about or no, not people were getting upset, but for Gremlins, I'm hoping in that show that they also put some parameters on those rules that we already know too. Is like, you can't feed them after midnight. Okay, but when can you start feeding them again? Because technically every hour in a day is technically after midnight.
The poor things, they're gonna starve.
Yeah, because like you just can't feed them while it's dark outside.
Right.
Is that it? But yeah, like the Tiny Toons Looniversity one is interesting, just because with like that one, it's kind of like the same thing that like Hulu did with the Animaniacs, where they kind of rebooted an older series and then brought it back. So like with this, it's kind of like a sequel to Tiny Toons, like what we like what would have been on TV, like what was it, like mid 90s, late 90s.
Yeah.
And like this is just looks like
Tiny Toons.
Yeah.
So it's instead of like them in high school, it's like now they're in college in this. It's kind of interesting. I did see that there's like some discourse, I guess, on like we were talking about earlier with Twitter. There's some discourse on Twitter with Babs and and Buster's like kind of relationship in the Looniversity, because
I thought they were brother and sister, to be honest.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Well, yeah, they are. So like in the Looniversity, it was basically giving them kind of Game of Thrones brother and sister vibes.
Oh dear.
Or it's been 30 years. Let them just change their relationship.
Or Luke and Leia.
George Lucas had in
episode 1 or episode 4 and 5, brother and sister vibes. But yeah, so yeah, but that'll be out soon too as well. And then the last one was for Disney's Wish. And so Sanford, you said you got to see this trailer. Mike, did you watch the trailer to Wish yet?
I'm behind on lots of stuff.
No worries. What did you think of the trailer, Sanford?
You know, I guess I thought it was okay. I mean, I didn't hate it, but for some reason, I'm just really worried about this movie. I don't know, the concept, it seems pretty high concept, which isn't a bad thing. I'm really interested. It looks like they're using some different animation styles throughout, and so I'm interested in seeing that. Because I think, you know, Disney typically just does such beautiful animation. But I'm worried about the story and just kind of generally worried about the future of Disney animation. You know, I don't know. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I don't feel very optimistic. So I guess I'm cautiously optimistic, cautiously hopeful that it's going to be good, but I can't say that this trailer just really sold me on it.
Oh, good. The other thing with it for me is I do like them like going a little bit differently stylistically with how the film, like, because years ago we got Paperman where it was like done in like that kind of mix, like hybrid of like the hand drawn with the CG animation. Where it looks like, at least with Wish, it might be the first time they're doing that
They're
with
actually
like
doing some of that, yeah,
a feature.
yeah.
So
I'm
I
stoked
am
about
curious to see what they're gonna do. I know that they're meant to be hiding like a bunch of like Easter eggs to like the 100 years of like Disney within the film, and it's like it's supposed to be like a tribute to the Wishing Star that you've seen in a lot, not every, but most other Disney animated films.
In many, yeah, kind of like the origin, right, of the Wishing Star. Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that film does, and then just to see as far as like what the final version of the story is going to be in that movie. I'm excited to see whatever that final version of that movie is when it comes out too. So, but the last thing before we get into talking about Star Wars Visions is for recommendations. This week, I was just going to recommend. There's a Star Wars Visions Volume 2 featurette that was released. I was just going to recommend that people check that out too. So after that, you've watched all of Star Wars Visions Volume 2, to check that out and kind of see like the behind the scenes and making of Star Wars Visions Volume 2.
Each episode has its own as well. So
yeah,
there's like a kind of a compilation one, and then I really enjoyed. I was able to watch all of those too, and thought they were very cool. So good call, Mark, on that.
All good. And then so from there we will begin our main topic this week, which is for Star Wars Visions Volume 2, which like we said was released on May the 4th earlier this month, because as we record this, it is Monday, May 29th, Memorial Day in the US. So Star Wars Visions Volume 2, this one, now, did you both watch you guys watch Volume 1 of it as well?
I did, yeah.
Not all. I don't think I watched all of them, but I did watch some of them.
Yeah, I watched all of them.
Okay.
I remember the one where like, there's a punk band singing for Jabba the Hutt, but
yeah, with Joseph Gordon-Levitt in that one. But yeah, so now the thing I said this to my wife earlier too was that with this one, I like anime, but with this one, I liked the kind of variation of animation styles from all over the world. So like from like the different countries saw with this. So I liked that there's a little bit more variation in storytelling and styles, and just like the like different animation studios from across the world with this. Now, for the episodes, there was 9 of them again. So with this one, there was Sith, which was the short from Spain, which was done by El Guerre Studios. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. I took French in high school. Screecher's Reach, which was done by one of our favorite animation studios, Cartoon Saloon from Ireland. There's also In the Stars, which was done by Punk Robot from Chile. I'm Your Mother, done by another one of our favorite animation studios with Aardman Animations in the UK. Journey to the Dark Head, which was done by Studio Mer Co. Limited from South Korea. There's The Spy Dancer, which was done by Studio La Cachette from France. There is The Bandits of Galak, which was 88 Pictures from India. There was The Pit from Diar Tejo, which was Lucasfilm and them doing that from Japan and the US. And then Ayla's Song, which was done by Triggerfish from South Africa. Now, before we get into the talking about each of them, I was just gonna ask everybody like what of the episodes, like which ones were your favorite out of the 9 that we got to watch? Mike and then Stanford, and then I'll go.
Spy Dancer, what is that? What is the Spy Dancer? I suppose from France, and In the Stars from Chile were the ones that stuck out the most to me.
Nice.
The Pit is it's up there, but it was very dark. So I don't know. I guess I could say it was one of my favorite ones because it also resonated, but it is very dark and disturbing take on the Empire, which we kind of probably should have known they did stuff like that.
Yeah. How about you, Stanford?
So my 2 were Screech's Reach from Cartoon Saloon, and then I Am Your Mother from Aardman. And as you mentioned, I think part of it just because I love these animation studios, and I'm most familiar with them. Some of these other studios I had heard of before, but this game doesn't mean anything, and I enjoyed watching all of them. But the ones that stood out to me were Screech's Reach and I Am Your Mother.
Nice. Yeah. So for me, my favorites were also Screech's Reach, which if people are watching this on YouTube, that's where this image is from. That's our background in this. I'm Your Mother by Aardman, which is what I used for our thumbnail for this. If you're watching it again on YouTube, Spy Dancer, I liked that one a lot too. I had to double check to see if it was. Because I was wondering if it was the same animation studio that did like Ernest and Celestine. So it was kind of like that watercolor looking animation style, which I know that Ernest and Celestine was also another film that was made in France, but it doesn't look like it was. It is the same animation studio that did. They worked on Genndy Tartakovsky's Primal, though. So if you've seen that, it's like that same animation kind of styling from that as well too. I did. Now I kind of already said it with this, but I liked like in all of these, like dependent on like which country made them, how you could see the different like cultural influences from those different countries like embedded within like their own takes on Star Wars within it, which I thought was really cool. Like especially, I really liked the blending of like India with Star Wars in the Bandits of Galactica.
Yeah,
I thought that was
that
really
one
cool.
was cool. I felt the same thing, Mark. I felt like I was watching like a Bollywood movie or something, that it was the Star Wars, Star Wars themed. Really, yeah, this kind of world cinema Star Wars I thought was really interesting.
It helps add to the Star Wars lexicon because we can only have so many American takes on this world that exists. So having the other countries put their spin on it just adds to it and helps build an appreciation of how vast this galaxy George Lucas attempted to create truly has become.
I'm with you, Mike. Yeah.
Like, and so I guess we can kind of start with the first one and go through to the end. So the first one was Sith, which was El Guerrero Studios from Spain. That one was interesting too, with like the styling for that.
Yeah,
it kind of reminded me of, like if you've ever seen someone like play around with like painting in VR. It was kind of like a short based off like that concept where it was like a lot of paint strokes and whatnot in it for like the way that like the styling for that one was done, but it was like within like this 3D space. So I thought was very interesting for that. And that one had some pretty impressive visuals to it that I thought as well too. It's the one that they used for a lot of the like the marketing, like at least
the
like
promotions.
the yeah. What did you guys think of that one?
Jackson Pollock meets Star Wars.
Good call.
Nice.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Mike. Sorry.
No, I was the first thing I thought was like the animation they chose just did not expect.
I think I enjoyed the animation probably more than I enjoyed the story, but it was just really kind of mind bending in the behind the scenes little in the featurette and the extras about this one. they showed a lot of different things, you know, again, truly behind the scenes. And one of them, which I thought was interesting, they had some kind of glass or, glass vessel with clear liquid in it. And then they were dropping paint in it. So it like kind of formed all these kind of interesting shapes in the liquid. I mean, maybe it was water, it was clear, whatever it was. But anyway, I think they were doing some really experimental stuff, and and good for them. I thought it was interesting. I enjoyed watching it.
You make a good point that I was going to bring up later, but I might as well do it now because it's on my mind. With this, I felt watching them, I was like, there's a fine line they're walking between being like, okay, this is all about animation, this is all about story. Like, which one has sway? And it's like a fine line they're walking to. If it became too much about animation, like you're just like in awe of that, but you just forget the rest.
Yes.
Like,
I totally agree. Yeah. And some of them were more successful, I think, in both ends. Like some were really cool animation and not great story, like Sith for me. Others, I think, kind of walked that fine line a little more successfully.
I think the ones we all picked as our favorites.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, like so, like going into Cartoon Saloon's Screecher's Reach. Say that 5 times fast. That one I thought was really
freaked me out.
So creepy, but fantastic.
It was unexpectedly dark, like, which is kind of like Cartoon Saloon's MO. Like they pull you in with like this very beautiful kind of folksy, like Celtic folksy stylized animation, and then they do some like really dark toned stuff in their films. So like if people haven't ever seen like Secret of the Kells, or like any of the other films that they've done, like there's
Wolfwalker.
Yeah, Wolfwalkers.
Wolfwalkers. Yeah.
What was the other one? The Beyond the Sea.
It was that something with the sea. Song of the Sea.
Song of the Sea.
Yeah.
They're all like they're like similar, like in tone to this too. So I don't know. I guess why I was surprised, but like in this, it starts off very lighthearted, and then the way that it ends, I was like, "Oh,
she had to do what she had to do."
Oh, okay.
I believe that was the line.
Yeah. Which usually, like in the story, you're like, "Oh, okay, that's like it's like the hero's journey," but it was the Sith's journey.
Yeah. That was so interesting, because I watched it twice. The first time I watched it, it was like the end of the day, later in the evening, and I was watching it. I was like, oh, this is kind of like, Empire Strikes Back and Luke going into the cave, which it is, but kind of like, but it's a Sith cave. I didn't quite realize it until, I thought what was going on with that old lady was pretty dark, and then holy cow, when the Sith mother shows up, just oh my gosh, what is this thing? But I also think one of the reasons why I liked it is because they really took that into such a different direction.
And another great thing they did, they introduced the word arse to Star Wars Lexicon. Always happy when they do stuff like that.
Andor gave us some swear words this past year, and then Star Wars Visions gave us some more swear words. The galaxy far, far away. What was some of the stuff you liked about the behind the scenes and making of stuff for this one, Sanford?
Well, I like just how they described their process, because really they were going off of that part of the Empire Strikes Back when Luke goes into the cave, and they were just thinking about some other ways to look at it, or maybe some other type of things that could happen within Star Wars, in that like the main character trying to find a doll, I believe is her name, trying to find a way out of a kind of a miserable existence. She's got this found family with those loyal friends, but to pick going to the dark side, getting trained in the dark side I think they toyed around and thought that would be an interesting choice, and I agree with them. They seem to talk more about the story than the art, but they did. But the art was cool. I think they did talk about because again, their interpretation of kind of a Star Wars planet was I thought great. It had some really wonderful visuals in it too, but it's really about the story.
Nice. And then with the next one after that was In the Stars, which was the Chile short. And then, Mike, you said this one was one of your. I liked this one too.
I liked it too.
If it was stop motion when I was watching it, or if it was like CG done to look like stop motion.
I just like the story.
I believe it was CG done to look like stop motion, but I could be wrong based on on the behind the scenes. But I might have misinterpreted that.
Yeah, I like what you were saying, Mike. I did like the story on this one a lot as well too. With this
Sylvie
one, I
liked it too.
Yeah, I liked in this one like the kind of I like the storytelling that was done with both with the painting on the rocks, and then with the sister relationship in there too. So it was some of the stuff that you liked in that as well, Mike.
The storytelling with the rocks, the fact that the star, that's their mother, I believe it was, and the whole thing was we want to get our mother back, so they had to defeat the Empire. Which, again, a lot of the stuff I liked about the ones I watched were painting depths of just terribleness that the Empire is. The fact that they went to this planet, destroyed it, and when the people rose up, they're like, "This is your planet, but they're our resources. Go away." Just we don't care about you. We're just here to get what we want, and it doesn't matter. Just the fact that was the first instance in this series, the volume, I should say, where they started building depth of evil. And I was like, I always love a good villain story. I'm a sucker for one. So adding those dimensions, I was like, that's awesome. I love that. On top of that, the animation didn't deter from the story, so I wasn't focused on that the whole time. I couldn't tell if her bow staff was supposed to be a lightsaber bow staff.
I know. I was wondering about that too, Mike.
So I was cool. I like the weapon. And I was just surprised how they defeated the one base and restored everything. So I was just confused by like how grand this base was, but it was a good chase sequence too throughout the factory.
Yeah.
But the story, the visual storytelling, the overall storytelling was great in it.
This reminded me, I was like Lilo and Stitch by way of Star Wars minus Stitch.
And plus the Force.
Yeah.
Plus the Force.
Yeah.
Because it reminded me of both like Lilo and her older sister's kind of relationship dynamic from Lilo and Stitch. So, but yeah, like
I also
go ahead.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say I liked, again, like with this, like the visual storytelling and like the production design with this one, as far as like from Chile, and like how the characters were designed in this, because I don't recognize like this species of aliens that was in this, so I don't know if we have ever necessarily seen them before, like within a Star Wars film or a TV show, but I thought like the design for everything in that was really cool. I even liked like with like the TIE fighters in this, how almost like they looked like they were made of like, I don't know, like paper mache or like wood or something. There was a cool like interpretation and design for.
Wouldn't
like
be surprised if the Empire was cheap and used paper mache to build their spaceships.
Right. Jerks.
I mean, who's to say what ILM made the original TIE fighters out of back in the
That's
the 70s,
true.
So. But
they used model car parts, don't you remember? They glued all those on the sides of cardboard or whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah, we all watched Light and Magic.
Yeah. Thing that I liked, and it started with everyone's least favorite trilogy, the sequel trilogy, is the ability to like how strong the Force can be on bigger objects. like Ray grabs that ship that she thinks has Chewie or whatever on it. I can't remember exactly what.
Oh yeah.
And then in Obi-Wan, he like gets all those boulders up and starts throwing those. Grogu builds that shield. Like they're expanding and how big you can be with the Force, and they did it again in this, which was I just think it's better. Like I like that instead of subtle. Like you have the subtle things they do, and then it's like how powerful they can be on
Yeah.
display.
I'm a real sucker when this stuff like that happens. I love it. You know, when those sisters came together and really used the Force, that was cool.
Yeah. So and then like the next one after this, or no, was there anything in the making up for this one, Stanford, that stood out to you too?
You know, I loved how they just spent a lot of time interviewing the filmmakers, you know, the directors and whatnot.
That's cool.
And the Lucasfilm people were there, you know, would chime in a bit, but it really highlights these local people, and I loved it. In that, I just like with this in particular one, you know, these people talk about individually how much Star Wars has meant to them, and then for the chance to get to work on a project like this, you know, just is so meaningful. And they all have really cool stories. And I thought that the director of this one, you know, the Chilean director, had a meaningful story, and again, just to see these such talented people being so happy about working on a cool project. Often the thing they would say was like, this has been like the best year of our lives. You know, you see it, as I recall, that's one of the quotes they was talking about with the Chilean team. They just loved it. You know, we're being able to do this project. And anyway, so again, that's one was, I think it was worth checking out.
Nice. So, and then the next one after that was Aardman Animations, I Am Your Mother, which I think this one was probably the one that had the most Easter eggs kind of peppered.
Yeah, as you say, it was loaded with Easter eggs.
Wedge Antilles.
Like Wedge Antilles straight up, like being in it.
Yes.
Like one of like the ships having like a little mini tiny Death Star on it, like shooting a laser from it.
I love that.
And then just like when they were walking, when they were walking through the shops, you could see like wood carvings of like porgs in there. There's like a lot of other little tiny like stuff like skit. I think I wanted to say that the main character in this, like they had posters up in their house, where and it was also funny that she was a young pilot named Annie, Anakin.
But is she okay?
Yeah. They had a poster in their house that looked like it was Hera Syndulla, which would make sense too, because with the
same
mother,
race, wasn't it?
Yeah, with the mother and daughter being both Trelix as well.
Yeah,
I thought it was cool that they had like a little Hera Syndulla in there. I think there was a Max Rebo thing that I saw in there too. That was like a little Easter egg to Max Rebo.
I think I saw that too. I want to go back and rewatch it, and I probably will pause. You know, some of those crowded shots where I think they planted a lot of a lot of the Easter eggs.
Well, and now with them, with this one, Mike, what was like some of your favorite stuff from I Am Your Mother?
I just like the comedy aspect. I'm always clamoring for more comedic stuff in Star Wars, because we all have the serious stuff. We all know that story. Yeah. And a lot of what Visions, like that's why Spy Dancer kind of was up high on my list, was it shows you like what the normal people like who aren't involved really are doing. Like, yes, they're training for the rebellion or they're like secretly in the rebellion, but there's a day-to-day life aspect of it where it's like, oh, like it's more tangential. Like I can relate to that. I can't relate to wielding a lightsaber as much as I want to. Like,
yeah.
But, and then I laughed too hard when the mini Death Star popped up. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
I did too.
Another question I have is like, is all animation in the UK Wallace and Gromit like style?
Well, I guess at least from Aardman it is.
Aardman.
Yeah, but yeah, like that was another thing that in this reminded me of like some past Aardman stuff was like when one of the Annie's friends in it was like saying something bad about the antagonist in this short, and that they start to say something, and the Wookiee in it says whatever they want to say, which I'm assuming is going to be some kind of a swear. And it reminded me of like the older Aardman Animations Creature Comforts shorts, where it's like those kind of things that they did there. And then just they always, like with the Aardman stuff, they always do kind of like the cheeky humor in it too, with like as her mom is landing, he's like all of the laundry that's falling, and the first thing you see is like a bra that's falling down, which that now goes against what Carrie Fisher said about with
George
Princess
Lucas.
Leia, because she was like, oh, they don't have bras in a galaxy far, far away.
I thought Lucas told her that to make her not wear one.
Who's to say? I just remember there's a story involving Princess Leia and Carrie Fisher with talking about like bras and a gap.
Humanoids don't wear them. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe
so
maybe
funny.
maybe the Twi'leks do. So
Not the one in Return of the Jedi, but that's another story.
yeah. Oh, that reminds me that that was another one of the Easter eggs. As they're walking through that like shop area, there is Leia's outfit from Return of the Jedi chilling out on the back there, like her Jabba the Hutt bikini is back there in that spot. So I liked how much fun Aardman had with placing a bunch of like those little tiny Easter eggs. Like it wasn't distracting. It was just kind of like to fill the space. And I liked that if you watch through the credits in that too, there's just kind of this like funny joke with like Wedge Antilles talking more about his merch over the credits of that one too.
Yeah,
so
that's funny.
I was like, Wedge Antilles out there really pushing that Antilles merch. So I thought that was pretty great about this one.
I mean, if you think about it, Star Wars is a great commercial.
Yeah.
So it's a play on that.
What was some of the stuff from the making of for this one, Stanford?
They were, I think, having so much fun, with clearly adding the humor, but they were intent on making an interesting mother-daughter story. And of course it's titled I Am Your Mother, based off of the very famous, I Am Your Father.
Yeah.
And they were just wanting to make that, interesting and meaningful, yet still keep the same kind of signature Aardman humor. And I know that the director was very stressed about it, but I think that I thought it was successful. I really did like the mother-daughter relationship, and everything about it worked. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I appreciated that they included a comedy, kind of this full-on comedy or a comedic episode in all of these, because everything else is quite serious.
And there's no Jedi in this one, was there?
Not in this Aardman one that I recall. I mean, maybe there's an Easter egg, but I don't think it's all just about these,
the Force, rather, not even just Jedi.
The mother and the daughter's relationship, and then the daughter kind of learning to believe in herself, and then also just understanding that her mother really loves her, even though she's kind of embarrassing to her. Yeah,
that'll happen.
Yeah.
Happens to everybody. So the next one is for Journey to the Dark Head from Studio Mir Company Limited, from South Korea. This one was interesting too. Now it's not technically,
this one confused me.
anime because it's from South Korea.
It's from Korea, yeah.
But it had a very
Korea-me?
Yeah. K-pop anime.
K-pop.
K-anime. K-anime.
Yeah.
K-anime. There you go. This one I thought was kind of interesting though too, so like the thing in it too was that Ara says something about like, I believe if I go back there and cut off the dark head, it could change the tide of the war. So spoiler alert to the end of this short with basically her kind of vision of that kind of slightly misinterpreted because we end up seeing that with it, that there is a dark head that is cut off, but it is not of the statues there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I liked that kind of like the whole play in this with like prophecy and whatnot, like that we've seen before, like in other like Star Wars like films, obviously, with Anakin like being the chosen one, and then just like how that's been kind of shown in the films previously with that. Now, what did you guys like from this short in particular at Stanford, and then Mike?
I thought visually it was just so interesting, and I think Mike had hit upon this earlier, but such an interesting setting, for a Star Wars story, kind of like something you just wouldn't expect. I think probably my favorite part was the when they were showing the show and just how that dancer was animated and with all that that incredible costume, and I was really taken by the animation, and then also just the uniqueness of the story and the setting.
Yeah. How about you, Mike?
Did we move on to Spy Dancer, or are we still talking about Journey to the Dark Head?
Journey to the Dark Head.
Oh,
that one confused
we're on
me.
Journey to the Dark Head. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I'm jumping to
That's why I was
Spy
like, he's talking about
Dancer.
dancing and a play.
Oh, my
I'm
bad.
lost even more when I watch Journey of the Dark Head.
No, I'm so sorry. I was jumping ahead.
Journey to the Spy Dancer.
Yeah, Journey to the Spy.
I'd rather talk about the Spy Dancer.
Let me just say, I liked the lightsaber battle in Journey to the Dark Head.
Yeah, that was really cool. He had some kind of like scorpion tail thing that was interesting with that,
which was really interesting. So I thought that one looked great. I didn't just love this one, and so maybe that's why I'm jumping ahead to the Spy Dancer.
Same. Like I struggled with this one.
Sorry,
it was very, very high concept, and I was just like trying to understand it, and I was like, this is more like a showcase of animation, I feel.
Yeah, good point. Anyway, sorry guys, my bad.
No worries. I did like the voice acting in this too, especially with Ashley Park and Daniel Day Kim. Who people
they got like some really cool,
Yeah, Daniel Day Kim was the Sith in this. He's used to playing a bad guy now recently, because he's going to be like the live action version of like the Fire Nation Lord in the Last Airbender TV series, and he was a voice in the Last Airbender series too. Yeah, but so it was cool to. I was like, I recognize that voice, and it's like, that sounds like Jin. Yeah. So, and then like Ashley Park's voice sounded familiar too, just because she does a lot of voice acting and different things that I've watched. So I was like, why? So like I had to pause it while I was watching that and like look up who's doing the voice acting in this one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you're saying, I did really like the like visual and style and like the production design for this one too. This one was, I think, kind of closest to I don't know if you watched it in volume 1, Mike, but there was the twins short that they did.
It reminded me of that too, Mark.
I don't remember it. I think I watched it, but I just don't remember it.
Yeah, that one was also, I think, like outside of the Joseph Gordon-Levitt Jabba punk rock band short, that was like the most anime of the anime styles in that first volume too. But with this one, was there any behind the scenes stuff for the making of this one before we move on to the Spy Dancer Stanford?
It was really interesting to see, because again, all of these documentary filmmakers were going to these, they went to the studios and all, around the world. And at Studio Mirror in Seoul, Korea, they all were just really serious. And I don't mean that as a criticism. It's just, you look at some of these other studios and it's just kind of what you'd expect, like just a creative space and, kind of big personalities, that are working on these movies or these shorts. At Studio Mirror, they were all just like, they were all very polite and clearly good at their craft, but I just felt like, okay, this is a serious place. Like these people,
Mhm.
and maybe it's just a cultural thing, you know. But maybe that was really, this is something that I really noticed, that it didn't kind of have this whole kind of creative energy. It was more, they just seemed like they were all like, you know, business people that were doing
Right.
animation, you know, that were good artists.
Makes me think of like shows like The Simpsons and stuff, where before they switched to computers and they were doing the acetate drawings, they would hire studios in like Korea and have thousands of workers doing that stuff day in and day out just to get it done in time.
Yeah.
So, and then the next one that we already kind of touched on a little bit was the Spy Dancer, which was done by Studio La Cachette in France. And the other thing that was kind of cool with these two is just because they were filmed at the different like geographic locations around the world, was when they did have voice acting for them that was specific to. It seemed like they did try to do it specific to that region because Daniel Day Kim is Korean, so that fits with like the voice acting for the like the South Korea voices for that. So I believe like even when it was in English for it, it was somebody from that region where the short was animated at. So like it was interesting to hear like Irish accents and, you know, British accents.
Yeah, it adds to the
French accents in all of these. It's like what part of the galaxy sounds French?
Well, I mean, if you look at the films, everyone's either British, American, or alien.
Yeah, all the bad guys in the 1970s films are all British.
And in the 80s, they were Russian.
Yeah, there you go. So what did you guys like the most about the Spy Dancer?
I already said mine. But I'm like,
I like I mentioned earlier, it had that slice of life feel where it's like this is what people are doing to get by so they don't get shot or whatever. The fact that the stormtroopers are taking their helmets off and going to a show is kind of cool. Then it added that, again, another layer to the story of the bad guy where they're taking kids. I mean, we know Mandalorians kind of take kids, the Jedi kind of take kids. Like, everyone's taking kids in this galaxy. But I was just like, then they had this whole story where she's throwing these trackers out while she's dancing. Had the flashback, like this, the whole story overall had so many layers in such a short time, and it all worked. I was like, although the one, I don't know if it was her daughter or sister or whoever that secondary dancer who saved her was, that wasn't really clear to me. That one
I think it was just meant to
whatever.
be like kind of like a surrogate daughter, since her son had been taken. She was filling like a motherly role to that character. Like with this, the other thing I liked about all of these shorts too is that they kind of take place at different points in time, like within the Star Wars timeline. So like this one had like some KX droids in there. People better know them as like what K2SO is. So it was cool to see them like within this animation style of here. Like in her, spoiler alert, what ended up being like her kidnapped son is kind of dressed like in the same regalia.
What we're supposed to believe is her kidnapped son.
Yeah,
it is. It probably most likely is her kidnapped son, but
and like it kind of looks like he's like in the same regalia as like Krennic was like within like Rogue One and stuff.
If anything, that storyline, if it was well received enough, could get some type of like spin-off show.
Yeah, there was some
the way it was framed.
There's some stuff from Volume 1 too that I'd really like to see, like a continuation of that story. So I do, and I know that like all of the stuff in both of these, since they're anthology series, it's like non-canon to Star Wars, like especially I'm Your Mother. But it would be interesting because like the same way that Marvel has like the What If animated series, it would be cool. Because this isn't
Captain
necessarily
Carter came back.
Yeah, so it's like this isn't necessarily like a Star Wars What If, but they could do that with like Visions Volume 3. Like if somebody from some part of the world wanted to do a short that was about Anakin not having fallen to the dark side, and like a story like set like after that or
he
something,
loses
like,
the race.
yeah, they could do that if they wanted to. But yeah, I like you're saying, I really liked how the story was in this, because like you're saying, it's a very powerfully done story too, like with like the way like her child is kidnapped as a baby, and you see like these very powerful flashbacks in here too that are animated really
I'm a
well.
sucker for a good flashback. So.
Yeah, and that can convey the
Yeah.
like kind of like what she's going through within that at that point, and just like the way that it was beautifully animated, just like with like the moving of like the ribbons and like the flowing like through like the air and whatnot with that. I thought that was done visually like really well.
And I loved the spaceship at the end.
Oh yeah.
With the TIE fighter parts and all.
Yeah, like the TIE fighter like wings kind of being like on the sides of it. I thought it was cool. Yeah, so it would be interesting to see like what they could do like with the continuation of the story on this one too. That would be pretty cool.
And layers that it's adding to this universe that we could see used elsewhere, like the rebels building a ship out of the spare parts.
Yeah, and then again,
it
shows just like how basically like racist the Empire is too. The fact that that dude had to basically shave his horns down, and he's got to wear the eye patch to cover up the two different eyes, and then that even like shows more like how it's not, I guess, kind of like impressive it is that Thrawn was able to like get to the status that he was within like the Empire, with him like looking different from like all of pretty much everybody else on like the like the Galactic Empire being like old white dudes. So it is interesting, and I liked the kind like the different stuff they did do with the story in here too. Was there
the last thing about it was the stormtroopers came in all shapes, genders, and sizes and colors.
Yeah.
Like they had female stormtroopers, fat stormtroopers. Like you don't see that in anything else. Everything else is just uniform. Everyone's the same. Like,
yeah,
that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I liked that as well too. I know in universe the whole reason it's usually uniform is because the Empire is like very cheap and only has one mold for the armor, so everyone's got to fit that mold literally and figuratively.
I always took it as a Nazi-esque thing where they got to have blonde hair, blue eyes, 6 foot tall.
Yeah,
meet this frame. That's the perfect soldier.
Was there any cool behind the scenes stuff for this one, Stanford?
Yeah, definitely. The thing that really stood out to me was, clearly the studio, the Studio La Cachette is in Paris, and these people that work there are, primarily French or, Parisians, and they took a lot of inspiration for this short from Paris itself. So what they did with the designs of the buildings, the architecture and then the interiors, it was just like, Parisian architecture and Star Wars had a baby, and it was that, and I thought that was another thing that I really enjoyed about watching the short too, is just that the interpretations of kind of these classic Star Wars environments made to look French. So cool thing, world cinema again, in the Star Wars universe. I thought that was cool.
Nice. And then, so the next one after this was the animated short from India with 88 pictures, The Bandits of Galak. Now, kind of talked about it a little bit already, like just kind of how like the cultural influence of India definitely really seeped in to this short specifically, I thought. What did you guys think of the Bandits of Galak? Mike and the
wasn't my favorite. I enjoyed it because of the different animation style and the cultural influence, but I unfortunately don't remember much about it. So if that tells you anything,
yeah, I'm the same. I really enjoyed the visuals, but I think that I was still focused on looking at the visuals. That it was one of
Yeah.
those that I also just the plot kind of went by the wayside. So I probably will have to either rewatch it again if I want to be serious about it. But it looked great. And again, it's the same thing. I'm a broken record. It was just like world cinema meets Star Wars, and it was, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it added layers to the universe.
Yeah.
Not everything looks the same that we've seen so far.
What did you think of the story, Mark? Did it stay with you better than it did with me?
Yeah, I mean, like with it, I liked it. Basically, it was like kind of like the older brother, younger sister kind of story that they had with it, and it was a story of kind of like he was trying to protect her because he knew that she had had a strong link to the Force, so that if she was found out by any of the with the Empire and whatnot, that she would be taken. And it kind of reminded me of what we saw in Obi-Wan 2, with the path in that, when he was trying to get Leia back to Alderaan. In that, it seemed like, I don't know if it was necessarily the same thing, but with a similar type of the path adjacent type of thing going on within this, with the woman, the older woman that they find in the city. They get to at the end of it, and her cane is the double lightsaber. She's got to take on an Inquisitor in that too.
Mm-hmm.
That Inquisitor had I don't know, it seemed like it was a voice box kind of thing too, because after she sliced it, he was still talking.
Yeah,
but I also think that's also an India influence too, because I know within India culture, isn't there, I don't know,
the rings?
Yeah, forgive Magna Eater, but I know there is with the rings that are worn around the neck like that. So I'm assuming that was some cultural reference within that.
It's an African tribe. It might be close to India. I know that much.
Possibly. But yeah, I liked that, and I just liked the older woman, elder in that city, had the cane, double saber, and she took that dude out.
I like the hidden lightsabers that everyone's been introducing in these series.
Yes.
Yeah. like Lucius Malfoy's wand within his cane.
Yes.
Who was also an Inquisitor, well, a voice of an Inquisitor. But
he's an Inquisitor kind of in Harry Potter too.
Yeah,
think about it.
It's true. Death Eater, Inquisitor, they're all the same. But yeah, I mean, I liked that kind of stuff with it. This could be one that they could do a cool continuation of, with what could come after where this one ends. So I thought that was interesting. Was there anything cool with the making of with this one, Stanford, that you can remember?
Honestly, it's just like what we've talked about. As I recall, if I'm remembering correctly, this studio was so stoked to be able to work on this project with Lucasfilm, and they were just loving, and Lucasfilm just gave them a lot of leeway. I mean, they gave everybody a lot of leeway, it's just to let them be as creative as they wanted to be. And, hence this really, again, feels like this is Indian Star Wars. And,
right.
And how cool is that? So,
if it were canon, they probably been like, no, you can't do
exactly. Yeah, I think they'd have a little tighter, control of that over it. But they, anyway, it was just cool to see, this office and these Indians working on this film.
Nice. Yeah, and if anything, with this. With these shorts, with Volume 1, it made me seek out some of the animation studios that I hadn't heard of before, and try to find some of their other work that that was outside of Star Wars, to just to see how that was. So with Volume 2, I'm going to try to do the same, because obviously we already kind of knew about Cartoon Saloon and Aardman. Those I think those are probably the most well-known or popular.
Well-known, at least North American audiences, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
So
sure these other studios who aren't as well known were that's part of the whole reason why they're so stoked is the platform is huge for them,
Yeah.
which is cool.
So-
Like, great.
yeah, and then the next one was the Pit, which was the dark shit Tahoe.
Very dark one. Very dark.
Yeah, from
dark.
Japan, which was done in conjunction with Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, this one was very, very, very dark. This one was one of the two that had that really focused around kyber crystals. That I don't think that it was supposed to be, but it visually looked very similar to Lethal, like with the city that they end up building up as they're digging that pit, and you see the city off in the distance.
I didn't. That part of it, I thought it was just like a city for like my ignorance. It was like, oh, that's a mining city. That's what they built, and I was wrong.
But yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting. Because that's kind of a first time we've seen like a hyperlapse kind of storytelling thing with like how they did that with like showing the passage of time and the build up of the city with that. So I thought that was cool. With it being called the Pit too, like when he goes to the city and is trying to get people to help them with the kyber crystals and whatnot, I did not, I guess, expect the result. Yeah, or the result of what would end up. I mean, stormtroopers are space cops, so.
You mean him being yossed into the pit to his death?
Yeah, we got freaking like Gerard Butler in 300 into the.
Like, that was nuts.
I was like, oh, okay, he's alive still. Oh no, never mind.
Nope, he's gone.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, they just threw him in there. He's still good. And then they cut to like them covering. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess he's not all right. He's not going to be in Rush Hour 3. But yeah,
one thing that I thought was strange was he made that announcement in the city. Nobody seemed to care. And then they're just like yelling in the pit and that drew him out, or did they like actually care and walk out there? Like I missed that connection. I don't know. But it was very dark. Like,
got to get in the pit and try to love someone.
Stick it in the pit.
We felt
it was just like so dark and added layers to the Empire that we knew that they were bad, and it's just the fact that they enslaved people, made them dig a hole to mine crystals, and then we're just like, bye.
Yeah. This one.
Not even bye, just like we're gonna stand up here and guard it and just ignore you.
Yeah. Was there anything in the making of this that stood out, like with like the story that they wanted to tell for this one at all?
Yeah, this one has a really interesting story. So the short originated with a guy who works at Lucasfilm. He manages the video and audio assets of he's like basically works like in the archive, right? Like a librarian, sort of thing. They showed him, in his workspace, which is just stacks of stuff, and he's looking at film.
It's a pit.
Like, yeah, but he's a black guy. His name is Leandre Thomas, and it was like he grew up in San Francisco. It was his lifelong goal to work at Lucasfilm, and he got a job there. And he's been there. I guess he's been there for like a decade, and he had this idea about this story, called The Pit, and he was through it. He kept pitching it to his management, and he was pretty, I guess, just kind of persistent with it. And he was able to get a meeting with Kathleen Kennedy, and she greenlit it, as soon as he presented it to her. And
it's a good story, so I'm
glad. It is. It's a compelling story, and
forgive any of our jokes too, because we're just trying to break levity with how dark.
the short
was.
Dark and super serious, right? but they decided to collaborate with this Dart Shiacho, or however you say that studio that's in Japan. And
Yeah.
but it was through both
Lenses.
but yeah, through both Lucasfilm headquarters and then the animation studio in Japan. So I thought that was a really cool story. They talked to Leandre a lot in this, in that segment as he goes through the story. He ended up being, I think, one of the voices. But anyway, Dave Filoni, was one of his cheerleaders on it too. So they talked to Dave Filoni. That was cool. Yeah. So that story was quite unique because if anything, it seemed to me that Lucasfilm was letting everybody else kind of just come up with their own stories, and this one, just happened to come from within.
Nice. All right, and then
makes you think how many pitches Kathleen Kennedy's like, no.
Or to even get a meeting with her,
Right.
So
yeah. And then so the last one was done by Triggerfish from South Africa, is Ayu's Song. This is another one that had a deal with kyber crystals. And it was like the whole kind of thing about it was it's like on a planet where they're basically purifying the kyber crystals there that have all basically been tainted by Sith. So they're like they're like repurifying them from being red crystals back to being pure kyber crystals again at that point. This one was interesting too, with just like the visual styling and production design to it. With it felt like, I don't know if anyone's ever played like Little Big Planet, but where it's like feels like everything is kind of made out of like yarn and like patchwork and like felt. In this, I mean, this one is definitely like CG animation, but it was done to feel.
Yeah, they really wanted it to feel. Yeah.
At first, I thought it was the same people who made the "I Am Your Mother" one.
Yeah,
for like a little bit.
It has a really similar look.
Now, what did you guys think of this one in particular, Mike, and then Stanford?
It was so for me. It was an interesting concept that the Sith tainted all these crystals and they need to be purified. Like that, maybe that's why they have all the red lightsabers, is whatever the heck they're doing to the crystals. I don't know. Again, it was one of those ones where I don't remember much about it after watching it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mike. Same thing. I thought visually it had a unique look, but and I liked the idea. The concept was pretty cool. But yeah, I couldn't really give you like a play-by-play of each one of the sequences. I remember the
concept, animated beautifully, but
yeah, I remember the extras, much more than I do the actual.
What was interesting about this one too is that it had the most kind of like preamble setup to it, with like a backstory that it gave you at the front of the thing that I thought was interesting. So you kind of had like all of the in and outs of what
they did the
going
credit.
on.
Like they should have done the scrolling credits. Come on.
Yeah, I guess
scrolling titles.
Yeah,
that would have been interesting. Yeah, I liked the visual style for this one. I thought the kind of like the use of music for this one was interesting as well too. But I'd probably have to finish watching it again too.
Yeah, you were just watching it before we started.
Yeah, hey, I had to try to work in watching all 9 of these, and they were all like 20 to like.
No, I feel you. I had the same issue.
But yeah, I mean, I had liked what I had saw so far with it. So
yeah,
it's an interesting concept. It was just you get caught up in the visuals, and you're like, oh wait, what's going on?
Yeah. And was there anything cool about the behind the scenes for this one, Stanford?
I think they focused a lot on the relationship of the co-directors. So it was a man and a woman that both work at Triggerfish, and they're both South African, and but neither of them. I don't know how big the studio is, but neither of them had worked together before. They didn't really know each other. But after the dude read this, I guess so, her name is Nadia Dairies. I looked it up. She wrote the kind of initial treatment for it, and then Daniel Clark saw this and just immediately loved it, and they just they just got put together to co-direct it. So it was kind of, there was a lot of discussion about kind of how the two of them learned to work together and how they were able to pull the whole thing off. So that was interesting. Just almost just more about their relationship than it was about the
So
short.
there's
Although
the subtext there that
yeah.
they were fighting a lot, and
I wonder, but they did show they had created some models of both the dad and the girl, at least particularly the young girl, and they had used, of course, the felt and all the different fabrics and stuff, the leather, to help as they were building the CG model. So that was again kind of cool to see, because you really, as we already talked about it really looks like it could be stop motion. The realism that they brought to, particularly I thought, to the materials. But anyway,
yeah. And if you guys haven't played or know of Little Big Planet, look it up and you kind of see like what my comparison is, or it's or if you've seen the movie Nine. Remember the movie Nine with Elijah Wood?
Yeah,
it's kind of like that kind of styling with it too.
It's not like the Trolls movie.
No, I mean I guess that's kind of similar, but so like the Elijah Wood movie Nine, where it's like a character that's like made out of like burlap kind of.
Are you talking about the video game Little Big Planet?
Yeah, but then like Nine, it's kind of like this like similar thing where it's like, yeah, or it's like in this burlap kind of world. That's like the visual kind of reminded me of that a little bit, but yeah. So like overall,
I remember that movie now.
I saw that movie September 9th, 2009, at the 9 p.m. showing.
How could you never? Yeah, you can never forget that.
Yeah, because I was like, if I'm gonna see this movie, I'm gonna see it 9 at 9. Just like when that Omen remake came out in 2006, I saw it June 6th of 2006 at the 6 p.m. showing. That kind of ruined it because then there's 4 6s there.
Nice.
Got some good juju back.
Yeah. So that does it for our discussion and breakdown of all 9 of these. Was there like any kind of last words that you wanted to say about any of these at all, or like what you'd want to see from like a volume 3 now that they've kind of done both anime and then global animation throughout the 2 volumes of these so far?
I'd like to see more global.
I would too. I'd like to see more global.
Don't stick to anime, because
I
think you're hindering yourself.
Okay. It'd be cool to see like animation from like Canada, Brazil.
You mean Paw Patrol? That's
Italy,
from Canada.
Yeah. With former Animation Fascination guest Cal Brunker directed the Paw Patrol movie. So
That's
hello, Cal, if you're watching us.
You can get that style and the TV show style. They have 2 different Paw Patrol styles.
Yeah. There's like all these other like countries they haven't gone to yet that they could do for a volume 3.
It seems like there are a lot of opportunities,
Yeah, and they could do something like a what if for it too. It's like they have they have all like these original stories. They could I think the Aardman one is like the closest to using pre-existing characters for any of these.
Yeah.
With Wedge. And Wedge Antilles has been the biggest character that has been used in any of these that existed already.
Yeah.
So I mean that shows like where they've only kind of just snuck in the door just a tiny bit to use like what they can from pre-existing stuff there. So I think it would be interesting to see what happens with a volume 3 if they do a volume 3. So that's gonna do it for episode 105 of Animation Fascination with our crossover with the Hold a Maneuver. Don't forget that you can follow us all individually on Twitter. I'll have all that information in the show notes, both here on YouTube and on whatever podcast catcher you're listening to us on, or if you're watching us here on YouTube. Thank you. Also, you can find us on all the social media places that you find people on, like Facebook and Instagram. Those are both Animation Fascination, and then Twitter is Animated Podcast, because Animation Fascination is too long to use as a handle on Twitter. And then feel free to email us at animationfascinationpodcast@gmail.com. Visit our website, animationfascination.net, where you can find every episode we've ever done there. Well, 89% of all the episodes we've done there. Animation Fascination merch is there too. Trent Factor edits our episodes. I'm Mark Bibbert. Oh, wait, one last thing. Also, if you're going to be in Phoenix this next week,
I was just going to say, yes,
Phoenix Fan Fusion, Animation Fascination will have a panel there at noon on Saturday, June 2nd. So that should be interesting. So that'll be episode 106 of Animation Fascination. So look forward to that soon. That'll be a little bit different, just because of how that'll all go down. I know Stanford's looking to seeing what
I'm
happens
very
with
anxious
that
to
too.
watch it. Sadly, I can't be there, but I'm just going to be cheering you on. I'm so stoked.
Well, if
about
it goes well, we'll hopefully have one again next year, and then
Yes.
also that'll lead to us getting a hold of one next year then too, and then maybe Mike can make it up for that one too, and then
I'd be there.
we have an Animation Fascination panel and a Hold a Maneuver panel, and
The coolest.
then everybody wins. So
Everybody wins.
so again, we'll be at Phoenix Fan Fusion June 2nd at noon. The only bummer there is if you do like the actor Grant Gustin and you like The Flash, it is exactly at the same time as his panel, which I found out, which is a bummer for me because I wanted to
I was
go to
going to
that.
say, that's a
that
panel you probably
panel.
would want to go to, right, Mark?
Yeah, I was like, why couldn't it have been a panel that I didn't want to go to that was at the
Yeah.
same time as my panel?
That's a
first time.
bummer.
But, whatever. It is what it is. But I'm Mark Fibbert. So for myself, Stanford Clark, and our guest, Mike Soren, thank you for listening, and make sure to tune in again next time or join us in person at Phoenix. Later, everyone.